Hello, welcome back. This is My Green Balance with Organnick. Today, we are going to focus on storytelling, spending some time together, and reviewing some of my blogs. So stick around if you want to hang out and review some reading with me. If that's too boring for you, then scroll along. Okay. So we're over on my website, mygreenbalance.com, and over in my blog. What I like here is that I've written a few items that we can choose any for fun to dive into. And what I'm feeling is this one as a story. One bold career decision positioned me for the future of artificial intelligence, wellness, and global innovation. Let's say that we can do a little history review and see how this translates into reality. All right, so this is pure entertainment here. Let's dive right in. Okay, I have here some writing, and the story behind this is aligning brands with your goal to build a brand. So, for example, if you're a brand and you're developing, you want to get the right brand positioning. And let's say that I've been building this brand since 2014, My Green Balance by Organnick. Organnick is the face of the brand. So it's a persona that is the stage presence of the brand behind the geek Anik, that is the writer and the blogger and the total geek that is me. Okay, so with Organnick being the brand, it has come with a brand development since graduating from Oxford Brookes, right? And it's with a history of athleticism and going from being in a small town or a small island to having big dreams and going on this journey, meeting people in different professional spaces and connecting, and there's lots of fun stuff there. So I thought it would be fun to dive into some background stories behind the brand and to see what we uncover together. Okay, so you might be able to use this information to reflect on your own personal journey over the last decade. And that's why I'm going to go through this from my perspective. But you can use this information to translate into your life, into your goals, into your brand if you're a business owner. You can also have this on in the background while you do something productive. I always recommend spending time with me is making your life better in some way, shape, or form. So if you have me on yapping in your ear, as this is a podcast style, you can clean, you can do chores, you can be productive with a project you're procrastinating on, maybe you're stuck in traffic. These are the reasons why we listen to podcasts, right? And if you learn something along the way, that's great. Or if you feel inspired to take action on something, that's great too. So this is a little story of an interesting journey from 2014. There was one day that I thought about the biggest companies in the world. And I only had a small nutrition degree then before I went to learn and study books for the next 5 years of my life and read a lot. And Microsoft, Google, these were the top brands that we had ever heard of, but we didn't have too much news about it. We just used their products. And from a business perspective, wanting to sit with that level of success seemed like the most exciting thing to do as a fresh graduate at 22 years old. So I thought, wow, well, where is this going to take me? So I just made some notes when I was making my goals list. I said, okay, I'm 22. I want to be a published author. I only put one book down as my to-do list. Now I would like to see, 10 books published. And this is now 10 years later, I'm writing that. But at that time, I wrote, I want to have my own clothing brand. I want to have some private branded items. I want to have, Microsoft, Google, YouTube, and these brands associated with my brand. And obviously, I want to be one of the best wellness brands in the world because health and diet was one of those topics that were deemed a bit taboo because people felt like diets would be temporary and that healthy eating was just a diet. A lot of people were in disbelief that people actually wanted and live healthy long term, and athletes actually live like this long term and perform at these levels long term. So for the average person, this conversation would be a hit or miss because diets to an average person felt like it's a fad, there'll be another diet. Yes, weight loss is important, but there's always another nutritionist, there's always a new diet, there's always a new something. And what I was destined to do is I was like, no, well, we love high performing athlete levels in sports. So we want to know what are the functional diets long term for longevity that people can sustain and stay pretty lean and healthy for as long as possible. And that was our mission that we went on to. And because nutrition science was one of those new careers, it wasn't one of those degrees where people knew what to expect right off the bat unless you were working as a dietitian in a hospital alongside surgeons and doctors and dealing with critical care patients. So, nutrition as a degree and as a practice was a pretty new concept that the only reason I chose it was because I was going to choose psychology to major in psychology. But it was noted that that field is pretty saturated. So, nutrition would be a field and a space available to create my own path and have work along the way as people would want to lose weight and get fit and thin in the future, since heart disease has been one of the largest reasons for death worldwide. Number one killer in the world is heart disease, right? So of course, as a business person, I wanted to be successful. So I thought, yeah, I'll go and do a nutritionist and go as far as I can go with a nutritionist degree and have personal training alongside that. The problem that I found with this being qualified as a personal trainer and having a degree in nutrition science was that the people that would come to me for diet didn't really want to work out. And the people that would come to me for fitness wouldn't really want to eat healthy. And in existence, in the professional fitness and health world, it was pretty straightforward that people would go to nutritionists for meal plans, people would go to personal trainers for workouts, fitness classes. Yet there was still an underlying problem of people not getting the results that they really wanted. Therefore, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do this as best as possible since I can merge having a nutrition degree and a personal training certificate to make sure that anybody who enters the My Green Balance space is coming to optimize their diet, physique, and their exercise routine, because that, in principle and theory, is what actually works. And being a results-oriented person, I'm like, I need you to have results. So this is what makes results, and this is what makes results long term. So when you're ready for that level of discipline, that's when people find me. Organnick was the brand. And that is how that started. And I refused to fit into a just nutritionist box or just a personal trainer box because of these observations that I allowed myself to have as a value system. right? When it comes to Google, what I loved about Google was that through researching its brand, it was a culture that Google has, where the employees would, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I've never been there firsthand, but this is what it looked like from my research, that the offices were fun for creatives, where you can have the ability to work on a couch and or in a hammock or some strange seating that's comfortable, with the office having strange shapes, and it's a very hands-on creative space for people and professionals to be able to produce their best work and think outside the box. And so I thought, I love that culture and how they do corporate culture, that I would want my brand to develop into a cool corporate culture like that as a standard and a means of communication. Tesla was one of those companies that I only learned about 5 years later or so. And because we were into sustainability, that's why it became relevant to how I coach my clients. Because anyone who comes to me for diet and nutrition would have learned in my program why we eat certain ways for like seasonal availability and recycling and being mindful of plastics and turtles and animals dying in the ocean from litter and glass recycling as part of our foundation. Probably because we had to write reports from the UN in high school for sustainability that in the world. And so sustainability has always stuck with us. And we like the energy saving vehicles and optimizing time and so forth. When it comes to PayPal, it was about 2016. We wanted to be able to work remotely, and the Caribbean banking systems did not allow inter-Caribbean banking in the sense that you can make transfers from one island to another, even with the same franchise. And it was annoying because I said, if I want to travel to a Caribbean island and do my finance wherever, I want on-demand finance. And there was nothing available, and nobody took it seriously. And I felt like I really want to have an online business since I saw that exist. And then lo and behold, PayPal arrives. And it took a while to set it up, but it ended up working out pretty well for me. I still use it today as a as a tool for my business and managing my American accounts because I like it a lot as a brand and what it does for me and how it works. Even though the fees are pretty high, it's functionable and it solves that problem that I found was a problem. So it allowed me to travel around the world and work like this online via Zoom and have global business clients, which to me is quite exciting. SpaceX, I learned about from like being around techies, but never really knew much about it. And then our friends worked with SpaceX that we met along the way, and I started learning about rockets. So that was just interesting how that unfolded in my life. And reading Elon's books has been cool because it allows you to have that understanding of when you're passionate about a brand and you're starting as a startup, you would work, sleep, eat at your place of work because you are that obsessed with getting something off the ground. And you want to optimize your time with transport and extra responsibilities to be able to maximize your productivity towards building whatever you want to build. Similarly, with Amazon getting started in a garage or Steve Jobs with Apple, they're all pretty compelling stories for why somebody wants to build something of meaning or impact in the world or make a difference. And I align with these, even being a small startup wellness brand, because the mindset to me was appealing at the time. I love Apple Pay now because our phones are quite bulky. So when we go to travel or we're moving around, it's pretty evident that sometimes we might forget our wallet somewhere or our wallet's a bit big, and it's just convenient that you can just pay tap on the phone. And to me, optimizing these transactions and life, the more optimized we are, the smoother everything else goes because being optimized means you could do things faster and waste less time and be more productive and have more fun because there's less stuff to worry about that is frivolous and that could be a quick solution, like having your wallet in your phone because everyone carries their phone around. So to me, that was just practical as what is required for next steps of evolution, and I like it like that. Rolex is one of these things growing up around horses and having horses in our family and racing and watching horse racing. You learn about these brands with Rolex and Polo, and it's great because it is one of those brands that represents precision, endurance, excellence, and legacy. My value aligns with this standard, and anything that I build or that I want to put my name or brand on, I feel has to, for me to feel proud of my work or for me to feel okay with putting my name behind something, it has to have a certain standard and feel of experience for me to feel proud about it. And I've also learned along the way through choosing at the beginning, I tried to launch a water bottle with my design, and the materials available at that time were not that great. So we found a lot of mistakes in our water bottle with the nozzles and spilling and leaking that we don't want to invest upfront in a material unless we thoroughly test it time and time again before launching anything into the market. And that's based on real experience that we've learned from. While we've had our customers love our meals and love our products along the way, as we evolved from just diet and fitness into more of the psychological coaching, organizational coaching, the corporate side of things, into tech, finance and branding and marketing, you can see that there's just been an evolution of how that journey evolves over time. And these are things that we are not closed off to because we are fans of evolution. As we prioritize our diet, routine, and fitness and health, we invite people along the way to learn about their own routines to optimize their own performance. We love also optimizing with technology because technology helps us get access to more education, knowledge, and global connections that we find are resourceful. Traveling so much makes you feel like you want to keep in contact with people along the way because you meet wonderful, cool athletes along having a sporting career. And now with the internet, we can stay connected to people any place around the world. Being from a small island, you can see how we would find value in loving being online and having friends around the world and connections. I always imagined being relocated internationally for work, and then I moved to Barbados for 7 years. I went to complete my book, and I couldn't finish it where I was at the time because it just was not aligning for me in that location. However, a lot of the groundwork was built in Trinidad. I launched my book on Amazon now, it's there from Barbados, and I got to hire from Fiverr female from Texas who was able to edit the book for me and take me through that becoming an author process. I was pretty proud of my work and I really like the book and I feel like it was perfect for what I wanted it to capture for a first book of recipes that people can choose at any time of life for quick, easy go-to recipes that are just natural foods, have a Caribbean or tropical feel to them, and don't require too much prep time. Over time, I learned a lot through experimentation of foods and diet. I spent a lot of time in the kitchen experimenting with different recipes, and I invested a lot in like 5 years because after meeting Jamie Oliver and his nutritionist, I thought I probably want to do a recipe book. So that's where that idea came from initially. So I went over to London and I went to Jamie Oliver's headquarters and I met with his nutritionist and I thought his whole movement was so exciting and I did an internship with his one of his brands over a summer that really took me to some really cool locations that I would have never dreamed about going to. It wouldn't have existed on my radar of knowing what Formula One even was, being from a small island in the Caribbean. I would have never known that I was going to a Formula One event and learning. I was there to learn about nutrition and health. So my mind was like so tunnel focused on learning about diet and nutrition and food preparation and food cooking and service and catering and these sort of alliances with health and nutrition. Lo and behold, I'm going to these royal places and having no idea what any of it is. Until you look back and you're like, oh, Henley Regatta, that's a thing. Oh, okay. The Garsington Opera, that's a thing. Oh, Getty, who is Getty? I've been having Getty images my whole life. Oh, the Gettys own this. Wow, that's a thing. Formula One, wow, that's a thing. You have to imagine being from a small 1.4 million people island in island life. No, we don't live in tree houses and swing from trees, but we do have city life. Trinidad is like the city of the Caribbean in the sense that manufacturing is here, industrialization, we have oil and gas, and it is a hub that other islands fly around to. And Trinidad also flies to other islands like Jamaica and Bermuda and St. Lucia. And there are more islands, Martinique, Guadeloupe, because you can do business across the islands and there's different life and traditions and themes around the islands, but the you can't necessarily you have to like take out US cash and credit cards. You can't say because I'm with this franchise in the bank, I can go to this country and access my same banking, even if it's the same franchise, which to me made no sense. And it was like kind of annoying for me. And I thought, this needs to be figured out. I don't know why I felt so strongly about that, but I just felt like it, it needed to be figured out. So then we evolve even further into tech, learning about finance and technology, and we learn about blockchain. Blockchain is a data storage form that we can see is valuable for health and wellness when it comes to data. Because what are medical professionals' biggest challenge? I'll tell you. What happens is you have to sit down and do paperwork. When somebody goes into your office for consultation, there's a consultation form that you need to fill out. Then, through each meeting, there's insurance forms. You have to have a system. There are files for every patient and more paperwork. The whole point of optimization, and if you have a mindset of optimizing things, then you want to have a system where there's less filing drawers and excess clutter, and there's systems, folders, and files for everything that could be easily found, sourced, and pulled for whatever is required. at that time. And the journey of data stems further from data analytics that I decided a decade later would be something after I published my book. I was like, well, what do I do next? Because I want to do something of the future. And I found that I was looking at the technology side of things and realizing Siri was coming up. And then we had Alexa, the speaking radio. And I don't want to use the word in ignorant settings, but you would hear people communicating on these levels to not good training of a bot, for example. Like if we are in the age of technology and AI developing behind the scenes, these bots are learning our communication, how we do things, whether we're talking to it with derogatory terms, anger, insults, or we're talking to it with commands, dictatorship that actually are productive. Or if I say to this bot, do this organization of this work, code everything from A to Z, and organize it in specific files. So you can see the difference of saying to a bot, you're stupid, say this stupid word, say this stupid pet name, say this stupid thing, and finding that hilarious. Where on the flip side, you can actually use bots to systemize and organize and actually solve real problems that most professionals have that they actually want solved that you don't necessarily want to do yourself because you're busy back to back with patients, you're busy in surgery. You don't want to have to go and organize all these files. So the whole point and purpose of this is to have data storage and organization. And now we go further into the cloud where there's now digital storage and Apple storage and Google storage, and then we go further into Amazon and AWS web services and the cloud, where we exist on the cloud is that we now have digital files and they even need storage and they need organization. So there's a whole world of evolving over time where it starts with health and wellness and it graduates more into the technology because working online and being in community and environment with experts in these spaces shows you directly how to optimize life, but also where things are going. And I decided at one day, it was 2019, that I was going to go into data science next and artificial intelligence, and I wanted to be an AI trainer and train bots because I felt like if we're going towards AI, and I expected this to be in 2040, like I thought, oh, okay, I'm just going to put this on my list and I'm going to continue doing fitness and online coaching and just doing all my wellness goals. And now I'm in music and creating music for fitness and health. I really felt like this whole AI bot thing was going to be relevant in like 2040, 2050. But lo and behold, 2020, ChatGPT came out, right? So to me, ChatGPT is a godsend as a personal assistant. I get so much more work done. I'm so productive. And I wasn't afraid of it when people are afraid of AI. And the reason why I feel like it's aligned with me is because I like the idea of ethical bots and ethical business. And I don't like the idea of people training bots and technology in the wrong hands. I don't like the idea of it. And I felt like if this is happening, I am most certainly going to be involved as a trainer, as I am, what I do naturally, but translate that into robotics and AI. So here I am today at 33, right? And you might think, well, how did you get there? And it's kind of a little bit like that. And so I always thought as well that if my social life wasn't so booming in my 20s, that I would have time to have excuses to say no to distraction and study a bunch. And so I deliberately positioned myself in low-key, off-grid location experiences to get a head start on learning about the future and technology. And some people thought I dropped off the face of the earth and was like, what is she doing? And I didn't mind because I deliberately positioned myself for some peace and quiet to optimize uninterrupted study time because that is the nerd of behind the Organnick brand, right? And so it worked. I think I retained a lot of information from the studies, and I'm really happy with everything I learned. And I met cool people along the way that helped me put this website together. I love websites since 2015. I've had like 4 or 5 websites since 2015. And my high school group has really helped me with my websites and marketing and photography along the way and letting the brand have a little starting space. And now it's just evolved. So it's kind of exciting because I still love everything, but now because the tech has evolved, it's more exciting to use the tools available and to go even further than I had limited my mind to. I would have never expected to be this optimized in technology. I just knew that technology was going to be very important to me, and it is. Working in technology is a dream job for me because I love learning about the tools and I love the idea of taking everything I learned over the past decade and passing it on and using these tools to continue optimizing my life and for people who want also optimized life. And the benefits of an optimized system and life around you is that you have more time to do what you want to do, whether you want to go to the gym for longer or travel more or have more quality time with people in person because you have optimized your systems with technology, and that's the benefit of that. The finance equation in solving additional problems of the job transition with AI optimized tools is still in discussion because those are conversations between traditional finance and banking that also require tech evolution to optimize speed and access and but also to keep its value and standards high where if not everyone can get a bank account, that's just what that is. There are rules and there are standards for those privileges. They're not just given away or they're not given as handouts. Those are standards that you must security check before you are able to access traditional systems. So with that evolution, what we notice is that if it were up to me and everything, I continue to reinvest into the space. Like I reinvest everything into learning, and you'd see like tech is a huge, huge world of investing. But if I was to imagine relocating after Barbados, I thought, where else would I work? What's cool? What is suitable for the person I have become? Because you grow a lot as you evolve and learn and, you build more knowledge and then you know better, so you do better to a degree. And if I was to relocate after visiting Miami just now, I got a really wonderful feeling where I saw that there are many more people who are into this way of life and evolved health and wellness as I am, whereas it might have been very isolated for a while 10, 12 years ago. It's a lot more of a popular thing to have now, like wellness clubs and run clubs and this whole fitness movement. People love it and people love their lives more with sport. So we're noticing that over time, these decisions, connections have trickled into wonderful impact globally. And to that, we are pretty happy about seeing because when I travel, if I want to go to a run club, it exists. Before it didn't exist, now it exists. If I want to go play pickleball and when I travel and meet people pickleballing, that didn't exist, but it exists now, you know. And instead of some of the predated systems and processes that we might have grieved from the 60s, 70s, and 80s as a way of life or standard of life, it is these new generations who have been born through Gen X and these younger teenagers and whatnot that have introduced us into this whole new way of being and culture that is taking over with their health and sports and way of life. Okay, so as AI reshapes industries around the world, I find myself reflecting on an interesting reality. I didn't build my career around artificial intelligence because it became popular. I built my career around people believing that technology would eventually become one of the most important tools for human health, workplace well-being, and organizational performance. And migraine balance was never designed to be a stepping stone to another career. It became the foundation that prepared me for the executive opportunities that now emerge at the intersection of artificial intelligence, digital health, corporate well-being, and human-centered innovation. Long before executive teams were discussing AI governance, digital co-pilots, AI safety, responsible AI, and enterprise transformation, I was intentionally developing the capabilities that those conversations would eventually require. And that journey began with health. Through my foundation in nutrition, weight management, public health, executive coaching, behavioral science, these have taught me something that has remained true throughout my career. Technology doesn't just live on its own and change lives, people do. The most successful innovations are those designed around human behavior, trust, communication, and meaningful outcomes. So, as my career developed, I deliberately broadened my expertise into entrepreneurship, digital health partnerships, product strategy, publishing, brand development, and commercial leadership. At the time, these choices appeared unconventional. Looking back, I now understand they were preparing me for a profession that had not yet been fully defined. One of the most intentional decisions I made was entering the software as a service industry. I used to hear these terms on the west coast of Barbados of SaaS, and this is a SaaS industry, and this is what this organization brand is directing in a movement. And should we become a subscription-based business or a SaaS-based business or an online business or a drop shipping business? These were the conversations around all the time, right? And then Pivotal Digital came about, where it was one summer when I launched my book. I wanted to learn some sales training and I met some Salesforce professionals and I thought that's so cool. I want to learn that. And this company was available that I had to sign up for. So I didn't actually didn't get paid for this. I paid for this like further education. The amount of money I've spent on this education is ridiculous. And what I learned was I had two choices, all right? So I paid for this education to learn sales, and it was online sales, just to upgrade, my skills. And there were two options for me. So option one was you're going to sell to more weight loss clients, and you're going to learn weight loss communications for a fitness and weight loss brand who's already like millions of subscribers and millions of people on Instagram. And option two is you're gonna go to sales for a new company that's cutting edge selling AI services, like agents for insurance companies and roofing agents and um, doctors and accountants and lawyers who have offices, and you could talk to them in Canada, America. You could call everyone and connect with them via LinkedIn. Or you could do this health and wellness version. And I decided, I have so much experience in health and wellness. I feel like I'm kind of at my max of everything I can learn in nutrition science for now. Like I feel comfortable where, I just published my book. I feel like I just graduated with a PhD of the amount of studying I was doing, right? And what it takes to actually do that first project and complete it to a standard I was happy with because I wanted it to look like a coffee table book that you could flip through with images. I didn't want it to be too scientific of a text. On the flip side, this new company was coming out and they're like, okay, we don't know what the market's going to do. People are now talking about AI and everyone's afraid of it. Do you want to work there? And I said, sign me up for that one. So that was learning SaaS skills and behind the scenes of what it takes to build that kind of business, especially in a new environment post-pandemic, calling America after people are getting, their lives back on track, learning about what their businesses are doing and whatnot. And I would love to get all those recordings of those sessions. I would make a movie on those recordings. I had some fun sales calls, you have no idea. And a lot of them were recorded. But anyway, in the training. So Pivotal Digital was an AI software company. I'm not sure what it's doing now. It's kind of like what you do when if you are a student and you have extra time on your hands, you pick up an extra skill. It wasn't like you got a job or anything. It was more like school. And if you made a few sales, you got paid a few dollars in US, which I wanted the US as well, but it wasn't going to support my, it wasn't a real job. It was just an extra skill I wanted to learn. And I allowed myself the struggle to learn that skill because I wanted it. So I wanted to understand how world-class technology businesses commercialize innovation, building recurring revenue, and create long-term customer relationships, and help organizations adopt transformative technology with confidence. And every executive conversation became a lesson in commercial strategy, basically. I learned how leaders evaluate technology investments, how organizations manage digital transformation and also digital subscriptions, how organizations decide whether to renew digital subscriptions, what's worth it for them. This could even be in CRM level. What do they subscribe to? What do they resubscribe to? What do they unsubscribe to? What do they answer the phone to? And what do they not answer the phone to? A lot of the business owners I spoke to were pretty comfortable with our chats once they confirmed and answered the questions that I had on a script pretty effortlessly, which I thought was pretty cool. Then some of the people who did not answer didn't answer because they weren't ready to hear about AI. And also, many people feared AI and didn't understand how it could optimize their business at the time because who else on this planet was thinking about AI for the past 5 years, Like no one. Okay. Developing commercial intelligence became another capability that strengthened my ability to contribute at an executive level. So at the same time, I continued investing in formal AI education, successfully completing professional AI training and examinations because I believed understanding the tech was only one part of the equation. I wanted to understand how intelligent systems could support healthier workplaces, improve healthcare delivery, strengthen product design, and create measurable value for organizations across multiple industries. Now, you have to understand that a lot of these tech companies are in direct or feel like they're in direct competition with each other. It's like when you go to a grocery store and you see a shelf of 10 brands of cereal. That's how they see everything. It's customers going to buy a product, and the best of the best want to stay as the best of the best and have market share. So, me looking to see life through all these organizations because they are multiple industries probably is where some kickback came in because they want things to be separate to a degree, but then you have to understand where things also are similar and need to be addressed or communicated for efficiency as an organization. So, as an organization, are you saying that you think a company is only going to use Microsoft or only going to use Google Search or Google Docs or only going to use, a certain email? Or are people and organizations, well, there's people as a conversation and then organizations as a conversation as to what tools and subscriptions are people using long term, or are they using multiple, right? And this is how this continues to go of the competition, communications of who's competing with who. And now we have the chat GPT competing with the Claude and the Gemini, and it's like constant in the tech world. And then Jeff Bezos is just there like Amazon cruising, like, yeah, it's just me here at Amazon. Like nobody could compete with Jeff because Jeff is just take all market share, but at least it's a good service and it does its job and whatnot. And now they have affiliates where a brand like me can have a page and a shop front in Amazon and say, if you go to my shop front in Amazon, you can get all of my healthy recommendations of products and brands I like and align with that you can click and you can click to go and get your groceries from Amazon, but you could go to any storefront and see what she would recommend from a nutritionist, personal trainer perspective, especially if you are a new person who wants to lose weight. And you can get the link in the description below because you might wonder what brands are you buying these days and what protein powder should I get? What does a nutritionist recommend? And so I have a storefront for that purpose because if Amazon is supplying everything globally around the world, you may as well have a nutritionist recommended space there so that I don't have to continuously give recommended shopping lists. It's already there. So people who want to know these things, the information is available. So again, it's just optimizing things and systems for easier life. Another defining experience came through contributing to application development alongside the founder of Microsoft Teams. That collaboration reinforced one of the principles that continues to guide my thinking today. Great technology is not remembered because it is technically impressive. It becomes indispensable because it feels intuitive, removes unnecessary friction, and allows people to focus on what matters most. Through some of my peers in Barbados in data and science and data intelligence, because I decided to go that way, I attracted people who were working in these spaces at high levels in these companies, as from starter to people who were consultants for some of these bigger companies. And for example, even though we were taught in school, Microsoft Word and Excel, and we use these from in our university days, PowerPoint and so forth. I had never used Microsoft OneNote, for example. And one of my peers helped me set it up, and it changed my life and organized my life to a whole other level that I didn't know existed. And so there are always new tools to learn that optimize life and why these are valuable products and software. But sometimes you do need someone to teach you how to use them along the way. That wasn't what I learned in school, but if we want to call it school of life, I'm grateful that I did learn it. And it's helped me to organize many of my stuff. And I'm grateful for a lot of the professional connections that I have grown alongside some master chess players. And, having these levels around me allows me to go to new levels, which is cool. It's like we can respect intelligence. It's like I respect your intelligence, you respect my intelligence, and it just allows to grow and feed each other into next levels and celebrate each other's successes in a different experience from this constant neck on neck competition space that's just almost stifling. And then looking back, I no longer see my career as a collection of different professions. I see one integrated discipline. Nutrition taught me how people function. Public health taught me how communities thrive. Behavioral science explained why people embrace or resist change. Executive coaching deepened my understanding of leadership. Entrepreneurship taught me resilience and commercial thinking. Software as a service strengthened my understanding of enterprise technology. Artificial intelligence connected every one of those disciplines into a single strategic perspective. The roles now emerging across AI product strategy, enterprise transformation, digital health, responsible AI, workplace well-being, and human-centered innovation feel remarkably familiar because they draw upon capabilities I have been intentionally developing for years. That realization has changed the way I think about the future. I am no longer searching for another job or seeking the right executive partnership or trying to get experience. The way I saw it was when I saw someone I admired, I'd pick their brain. I'd be like, where did you study? What did you learn? What books did you read? How are you like this? How do you have these skills? And I'm like, I have to spend time with you to learn more about, how you are. So I'd spend time with people who have these skills that I liked, and then I would learn it, and then I would say, oh, I have to learn that because that's who I want as a skill as I'm developing. I want to have that ability. And so these different experiences would give me these different capabilities. Whether I struggled to get them or not is a different story. I'm not saying anything came easy, but I'm saying that that's how my decision-making process was structured. If I saw something I wanted, I just worked hard and got it. So the organizations that inspire me are building technology capable of improving lives, investing in AI, digital health, life science, enterprise platforms, workplace transformation. Are we cut? Are we still rolling? Still rolling? Okay. And these environments where multidisciplinary thinking becomes a competitive advantage, right? Because sometimes when you're in one niche, you can't see the whole board. But when you can see the whole board, you could kind of understand how things move a little better, especially in the age of distraction. So the opportunities I seek now are basically taking this skill set and plugging it into what's going to be for the next 10 to 20 years. Because with this trajectory, there's a certain path that is moving forward, which if it's a train, I'm on it. And I want to just optimize in the right space through a filtration process to allow things to align the way that they ought to align for the best positioning in how I can continue to deliver my value, strengths, and services and scale accordingly alongside whichever professional group is either built or is already existing that requires that natural alignment. What I liked a lot about growing up in oil and gas country is understanding that the international school that we have here brought in a lot of oil and gas families, and you would get talking to them about the contracts, and the contracts that are all done in oil and gas include that you get to migrate as a family or as a professional with all of your expenses paid for. So your accommodation is paid for, you get cars, you get your salary, your kids get like the best education, and all of these things are paid for as a title to work in these organizations. And I thought that is the kind of setup that I think is perfect because I wouldn't settle for anything less. And especially given the level of sacrifice to have the perspective of understanding how things continuously line up over time reflects that. And it is measured by impact, right? And wrapping up, we can make this into a few episodes because I like this chat. And then it's interesting to see what happens when you do something of focus for so long. For example, if you have focused on your own brand over time, you might notice how did you grow through that time of your brand evolution? And if you started in 2014 or if you started in the 90s or the 80s, not only did your brand grow, but you also would have grown or changed or learned a lot along the way. And that's why this conversation is important because as I reflect on this, to put experience into words, it also says if you want to do that because it makes sense to you as understanding your life, understanding where you are in your list of goals or dreams, or checking in with yourself for like that accountability session of your achievements or your accolades or your failures and your successes and understanding your development and who you've become, what you like, what you don't like, those evaluations, those checkpoints, then if you're anything like me, that is important to do mid-year, once a year, twice a year, when you can find the time, or once every 10 years, who knows, right? So for the next generation of artificial intelligence, we see that things are happening with the way we work and in shaping the ways we learn, heal, connect, and that it deserves leaders who understand the value of technology and ethical AI. Because what we refuse to allow is the development of bots that are there to cause a nuisance or be trolls on the internet or have unproductive mannerisms that are unnecessary. And if you want to have a subsector of that, it's out of the normal general public, that it has its own group for destructive AI or something that's not in the normal marketplace or social places because entertainment's cool, having, laughs are great, but not at the level of joking or criticizing or belittling people as a joke. That's not funny. that shows very low levels of intelligence and human skills, that it just shows pure ignorance. And like if that has to exist, let it exist outside of the future of development of real useful technology and ethical AI and structures that actually have benefit to society and to institutions and workplaces and real careers. So that we can have a good separation for the clowns can stay in the circus and the professionals can have a space to be professionals among other professionals who have similar mindsets, who don't really have tolerance for that level of behavior, right? And when you understand and you can communicate and align with people who understand the match between technology and humanity with equal depth, that is a game changer. Because you can live a normal life, have a normal job, do what you have to do, go to work, spend time with your family, travel, and you live that life, and that's fine. But stay out of the lane of people who are actually building the future of these, very powerful systems. And that has become the purpose of behind everything I've spent the last 15 years building. And looking back, I realized I was never preparing for the career I had. I was preparing for the careers that were still being invented. And today, those opportunities are no longer theoretical. They are becoming some of the most important executive roles in the global economy. I believe in the next chapter of this journey does belong inside an organization that share the vision and one that recognizes the future of AI, but also culture and allowing a workspace to have its flexibility without compromising on results, customer service, and adhering to high-level standards, processes, and systems with the future goals aligned and value systems. So it's not only about what tech can do, but how communities and people are optimizing the technology to make a difference where is required, but also to move things forward and move the needle. And when designed with applied wisdom, this is great and responsibility and purpose because you know you're getting a solid product and with a trustworthy retailer who you know products work and that are hey long term and they're always there and work well and they're reliable. And I suppose this is the one conversation I have spent 15 years preparing to have. Right? So I always wanted to have this space, and here it is. So this has been a story time. I figured I just wanted to have a story time segment in the YouTube space so that there is executive content, there's chats and podcasts like a free flow style, and then there's also health and wellness specifically for diet and fitness and weight loss. Because having that variety of content from what I learned with regard to the wellness wheel, for example. Since you've been here for so long, how about I share something fun with you? Let's see what I can offer you here today. So the what we see as professionals include that we see things like this, where of there are a few sectors of health. And what we align with is that there is the physical side, which is why you're here for migraine balance. It also includes the social, occupational, intellectual, environmental, spiritual, financial, emotional. So if you think sometimes that we are communicating about more than just your diet, it's because our communication is always in flow with this in these topics, because that is what we believe constitutes to a healthy person to have ratings. You can rate this in your personal life. You can always check in and rate it 1 to 5 out of, where are you, or 10, and rate yourself. Or you can understand that just because you have mastered one component of this wheel, there's still more space for you to expand your mastery levels in. And when you can look at the whole wheel, it's a little more exciting. If you get bored, let's say you master diet and then you master fitness, and you're like, well, what's next, Danny? There's always more for the super achievers like myself. And for those who are super achievers like myself, we have lots of resources for you. And just when you think you've maxed out in the space that you're in, we can always provide something more for you to grow into if you want to. Until next time, long chat, stay healthy, and thanks for sharing your time, space, and energy with me. It's been really lovely having this space here. And as we continue to grow and evolve as a brand, we keep in mind that we love being alongside you while you grow and evolve, and that it would be fun to see this group really pull in some of the best of the world, athletes, performers, executives, brands, as a space that is a healthy space for the best of the best to coexist, you know? And wherever that takes us next, it's a surprise.